I never thought a simple trip to court could feel like stepping into a nightmare I didn't even know existed. I was there for my cousin, Marcus, nothing more. I planned to sit quietly in the back row, offer a supportive smile, maybe whisper some words of encouragement if he looked at me. I was invisible. That was the plan. But then the judge looked at me, and in one instant, the room froze. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. And then she read my name. My stomach dropped. My heart was racing faster than I've ever felt in my life. How could my name be on a legal document I had never signed, never heard of, never touched? But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. I arrived at the courthouse early, trying to appear calm, but the echo of my heels on the marble floors betrayed me. People shuffled papers, whispered to one another, and the security scanner beeped for someone a few feet away. I kept telling myself, "It's fine, you're just here for Marcus. Nothing else." But deep down, I had that small, nagging worry you get when a place suddenly feels unfamiliar, when everything looks the same as in movies but feels dangerous in real life. Marcus, my cousin, was 27, sitting at the defendant's table, hands clasped tight, jaw tense. I watched him try to hide his fear. And that's when it hit me, I wasn't just supporting him anymore. Something was about to pull me into the center of the room, whether I wanted it or not. I could feel it in the weight of the air, in the sudden silence when the judge glanced over her glasses at me. I thought I was invisible in the courtroom, a shadow in the back row. I was wrong. And as the judge opened her folder, my mind raced through every possibility. Clerical error? Coincidence? Nightmare? The room seemed to shrink around me. The murmurs stopped. All eyes were on me. And then, as she began to read aloud, every word cut deeper than I could have imagined. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever felt completely invisible one second, and the next, the entire world is staring at you? That's exactly how it felt when the judge's eyes locked onto me. I froze mid-breath, mid-thought, mid-life. My name, Alexandra Thompson, was on her lips, and suddenly, I wasn't just a cousin in the back row. I was the center of a storm I didn't see coming. The courtroom was massive, yet it suddenly felt suffocating. Sunlight cut through the blinds in sharp, narrow stripes across the polished wood floor. People's faces blurred into a sea of disbelief and curiosity. Marcus, my cousin, 27, sat rigidly at the defendant's table, eyes darting between me and the judge, his hands trembling slightly. I could almost hear his internal plea, "Don't make this worse, Alex." But how could I? I didn't even understand what was happening myself. The judge, Honorable Cynthia Harper, 58, poised and commanding, adjusted her glasses and held a stack of papers that suddenly felt heavier than the world itself. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice cutting through the tense silence like a scalpel. My chest tightened, my palms were slick with sweat, and the world seemed to tilt. I wanted to speak. I wanted to run. I wanted to vanish completely. But my voice caught in my throat. The murmurs around the courtroom swelled into a low hum, whispers bouncing off the walls. I could almost hear the collective thought in the air. What did she do? Why is she here? A legal mistake? A scandal? My mind raced. I thought of every possible scenario. Could there have been a mix-up? Was this some kind of identity fraud? And yet, every rational explanation felt completely inadequate. Then the judge opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the pages, and her lips formed words that I knew would haunt me forever. The name on that document wasn't just mine, it was tied to something official, something legal, something I didn't belong to. My stomach twisted, my heart pounded like a drum in my chest, and I whispered to myself, "This isn't happening. It can't be real." But it was real. And as she began reading aloud the first line of the document, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath. What came next wasn't just shocking, it was life-altering. But what she read would leave me questioning everything I thought I knew about my life. Have you ever felt your world flip upside down in a single sentence? That's exactly what happened as the judge's voice echoed across the courtroom. Each word she spoke felt heavier than the last, pressing down on me like bricks. My name wasn't just mentioned, it was tied to something real, something I had no part in. I wanted to close my eyes, to disappear into the back row, but the weight of everyone's gaze pinned me in place. The document she held, a legal notice, wasn't about Marcus at all. It was about me. Or at least, it claimed to be. Alexandra Thompson, 24, is required to appear in court. That line alone sent shivers down my spine. How could this be happening? I had never been involved in any legal case, never had a brush with the law, nothing remotely close. And yet, here it was, officially printed on courthouse letterhead. Every beat of my heart was loud enough to drown out the whispers around me. Marcus's eyes met mine for a brief moment, panic mirrored in his own. "Alex," he whispered under his breath, "what is going on?" I had no answer. Even my thoughts felt scrambled, like scrambled eggs of fear, disbelief, and confusion. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice refused to cooperate. All I could do was sit there and let the courtroom's attention weigh me down, every pair of eyes magnifying my terror. I tried to process the absurdity. Could this really be a clerical error? Courts make mistakes, right? But if it were a mistake, why did it feel so personal, so pointed? Every detail in the notice, dates, case numbers, references, matched my personal information perfectly. Every contradiction in my mind screamed one thing: this wasn't just a fluke. Something bigger was happening, something I didn't yet understand. Then the judge paused, her eyes narrowing, scanning the next line of the document. My stomach dropped. "Alexandra Thompson," she said slowly, emphasizing each word as though she were savoring them, "you are required to respond immediately." Time seemed to stop. The courtroom air grew heavier, as if every breath I took was filtered through fear. Every thought, every heartbeat, seemed to echo my own rising panic. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just about a mistake. This was about me. And what came next would pull me further into a world I didn't know existed, a world where reality itself seemed to have flipped upside down. Have you ever felt like the ground beneath you vanished, leaving you teetering on the edge of a cliff you didn't even know was there? That's exactly how it felt as the judge's gaze bore into me. Every eye in the courtroom was on me now, but I couldn't move. My name had been read, my presence questioned, and suddenly, I was part of a story I hadn't agreed to live. The clerk shuffled papers nervously, glancing at the judge, then back at me. My chest felt like it had been hollowed out, and yet, I couldn't look away from the unfolding reality. Alexandra Thompson. My full name, my age, my address, all tied to something I had no memory of. The judge's voice cut through the thick silence again, precise and unrelenting. "It appears there has been a clerical error. Verification is required immediately." I could feel the tension in the room thicken. Marcus's hands gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white. He tried to offer me a reassuring glance, but I could see his own fear mirrored in his eyes. Every instinct screamed at me to bolt, to run from this place that suddenly felt like a trap, but I was rooted in place, the weight of the unknown pinning me down. As the clerk verified the information, it became clear someone had accidentally linked me to a legal case I had no involvement in. It was a mistake, official, documented, procedural, but the shock didn't fade. My name was now on courthouse records, even if temporarily. My life had been involuntarily pulled into a spotlight, a place where the consequences could have been devastating if anyone else had not caught the error in time. Relief and disbelief washed over me in waves. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to shake someone and say, "Do you realize what just happened?" But the courtroom remained solemn, silent, but for the judge's careful words. "This matter is resolved for now," she said, closing the folder, her eyes lingering on me with a mix of curiosity and finality. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter yet strangely shaken. Marcus was safe, the error corrected, but I knew one thing with perfect clarity. Life could turn on you in a single moment, a single sentence, and reality could feel completely rewritten. And even though the immediate crisis was over, the memory of that day, the judgment, the silence, the sudden exposure, would stay with me forever. Have you ever had a moment where your whole life feels like it's being rewritten in front of you? That's how I felt stepping out of that courtroom. Relief should have been enough, but it wasn't. The adrenaline hadn't left my body. Every step echoed in the empty hallways, reminding me that for a few terrifying minutes, the world had turned its gaze directly on me, and I had nowhere to hide. I found Marcus waiting for me outside, shoulders slumped, but a faint smile breaking through his tension. "You okay?" he asked, voice small, cautious. I nodded, though my mind was still spinning. Yeah, I think so, I said, though the words felt inadequate. How could a clerical error make someone feel so visible, so exposed, and yet so lucky to walk away unharmed? Reflecting back, the entire experience felt surreal. One moment, I was an observer, sitting quietly in the back row, hoping to be invisible. The next, I was the main character in a legal drama I didn't audition for. Every detail, from the judge's sharp eyes to the hush of the courtroom, to the clerk's frantic verification, etched itself into my memory. It was a story of fear, disbelief, and absurdity all at once. Life has a way of reminding us how fragile our normal really is. One wrong paper, one misplaced name, and suddenly, the ground beneath you shifts. I came to court for Marcus, to support him through something difficult, but in the process, I was reminded how quickly life can surprise you, how easily it can put you in a place you never imagined. Have you ever had that happen? That instant where the world points at you and nothing makes sense? As we walked out together, the sunlight hitting the steps felt almost too bright, almost like it was apologizing for the chaos inside. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift, but also knowing that the memory, the shock, the fear, the unexpected exposure would stay with me forever. One moment can change everything. One name can turn you from invisible to the center of attention in a heartbeat. And that's exactly what happened to me that day in court. If you've ever felt caught in a moment that rewrote your reality, share it. Comment below. And if you want more stories that expose life's unexpected twists, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the truth is stranger than anything we could imagine.